What's up, everybody? It's Friday here in Sydney and we are talking how to start your flexibility journey. This is a really important discussion for a lot of people, especially if you have experienced a little bit of failure to launch. We're going to go deep into this. I've got Phil with me. Buckle up. All right, well, today is a very special day because you guys get to see the other side of Phil White, the best physio in the world's face. He is sitting in Rad's chair today. Rad is on a little bit of leave. We got a long weekend here in Sydney, Australia, and we gave Rad a bit of a chance to tap out. And Phil and I are really excited because it means that the intellect of the show, the general score of intellect is going to be raised. The median score is raised exponentially now.
Shots fired. Definitely not the best physio in the world. I'm trying. I'm working on it. I'm well. It's strange to be on this side of the table. It gives you a whole new perspective on the show. It feels like extra techie. Seems to be more in my view.
Yeah. He's also got the window in the background now. We have a window to the gym outside where people can look in and see the podcast, and it's a cool side to sit on. It is. And we've got the voice of God. We got Richie behind the mic. How are you, Richie?
You do. I'm pretty good.
Cam.
Yeah. We're looking forward to diving into our weekly group coaching call after this to the UMS online coaching group. And, quite frankly, we're extremely humbled by the 60 plus new people that have joined this week. We haven't done a drive to sign up new members for quite a while because we've been focusing on how we can improve the user experience, and it's like the door's been kicked down.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Unreal. And I'm really enjoying the coaching calls all week. This week's been really good. So
it's been fantastic. So today we decided to talk because we've had a couple of really good discussions this week in regard to how to treat specific issues, pain points in the body that people are dealing with. Yesterday, Rad and I really framed this discussion up with, starting to think about looking beyond the one thing and starting to train your body as a system. I like to call it a bunch of relationships between different systems and tissues in the body, and when those relationships start to break down a little bit, that like any relationship, you see problems, and what you want to do is just get everything happy and symbiotic again. And by looking for the one thing, okay, I've got this pain in my hip, how do I fix that?
I like that relationship analogy. It's good. Maybe you've got some financial stress that's going on, and then that's kind of adding to the stress. And then, maybe your partner or you go out and buy the wrong flavor of yogurt, and then suddenly, bam.
Yeah,
that's where where the problem is expressed. But maybe the bigger problem was stress somewhere else in the system.
That's right. Exactly.
Definitely didn't happen to me. I always buy the right yogurt. But
yeah, look, and this is
it's definitely a really common thing I see as a physio, and it's something that's really changed kind of my thinking over the time. Where I remember when I was a young athlete seeing physios, and sometimes they'd just kind of go down these crazy rabbit holes where it's like, oh man, yeah, you're this problem. I remember that guy you saw who was saying that all your problems came from your pinky, because of a scar on your pinky.
Good Lord, yeah.
But I think
that's
people.
True story, folks. I've got I've had an injury on my finger that needed an operation, and I saw a physio who basically said that all of my training issues and strength issues was from that little finger scar
and then
tissue.
tried to sign you up for a
10-pack
of treatments.
Physio treatments.
Love
yeah.
that. But yeah, I think it's a really common thing where people, health professionals do it. Everyone does it, where they like to find one specific, component of an overall problem, the loudest, the sorest thing, and then blame all their other problems on that one thing. Or they try and find really specific that injury identity concept we talk about a lot. They kind of really hone in on one thing and then blame everything else on it. When you kind of lift up the hood and you see what's their training's like, what everything else in their life is like, then you can see that there's maybe a whole bunch of different things that could be improved, but you can get so honed in on take that pinky for example, and if you go get a 10-pack of treatments on that, it feels like you're really tackling the issue because someone's told you it's all coming from your pinky, but you're doing nothing to overcome all the other load management issues, training, programming, principle, problems. So
that's why it doesn't surprise me that when people come into our UMS online coaching, and Rad and I sort of said it, Rad pointed it out very wisely earlier in the week in the series, that the Foundations program in and of itself, because of its nature, because of its balance, it sort of works unilaterally initially to sort of help provide a little bit of improved symmetry in the body, and just the nature of the movements. They're big, complex movement patterns that the body is really having to work as all those systems are firing up and getting going. By nature, it works as a rehab program for most people, and it doesn't really matter what issue you come in with a shoulder dysfunction, a hip dysfunction, a knee dysfunction. Just by doing that, and there is a caveat to that, as I said, if you've got a really acute tear in the meniscus, then we need to alter certain areas, and same goes in the shoulder and stuff like that. There will be examples where your injury is fresh enough that we do need to adapt it, and we may plug in a rehab module into that, but by nature, that program in and of itself solves most issues just because it gets the body moving properly.
I'm going to say something that's, maybe even a bit controversial, but like it might not even be like with fairly, not like really long chronic injuries, but with pains that pop up every now and again, it's often just time. It's natural course of healing. The human body's really good at sorting its shit out. 6 weeks, most things will start to feel a whole lot better. There's always like a regression to the mean of your pain experience. So, and same, like the body is really good at finding homeostasis, and sometimes it's just about entertaining the body for that time, and and then it will sort itself out. So it might be that you get into this program and that fixes the problem, but a lot of the time it kind of wouldn't matter what you do. But if you're going to do something, you might as well do the best thing you could possibly do, which is build up your foundation so that you can then progress and move your goals. And it's something that really challenges myself as a physio and like other health professionals, that like coming to terms with it. The body's really good at healing itself, and sometimes you're just entertaining someone until it gets better on their own. But it's the skill is knowing when that's true and when that's not, and then giving people the best sort of thing they can spend their time doing that will have ongoing results. And
that is so it's hard to digest, but it's so freaking true. And I'm a really big believer that if you move the body in a really nice way where you're getting all the joints working nicely, you're challenging the stability systems, you're challenging the strength systems, you're challenging the cardiovascular systems. There's two things that happen there. One is, as Phil said, it sort of entertains you or distracts you from the issue. By nature, exercise raises your pain tolerance. Like when you're exercising and you're challenging your muscles and you're experiencing that delayed onset muscle soreness, and even just the burn of a workout, it is sort of slightly, ever so gently reprogramming your brain to handle pain in a different way.
Well, there's a few things around that, and definitely go back to the pain science series we did pretty early on in the podcast if you want to know like much more about it. But part of it is the release of endogenous opioids. So that basically means like your internal painkillers. So that endorphin or dopamine. Basically the internal painkillers. But the other big thing is with pain being an expression of your perceived threat. If you can build confidence in your body by doing a program and showing basically your brain that you're confident with movement, your body is stronger than maybe you were thinking before, then that has a real effect on your pain experience as well. So
that's huge, and that fits into the peace and love that you talk about there with getting sort of confident and
so the peace and love is that British Journal of Sports Medicine take on the rest, ice, compress and elevate approach to injury management, which I linked a bunch yesterday. So if you want to...
Now, very quickly before we get started, I want to know the question of the day today is that we're going to talk now about the concept of a minimum daily commitment to movement. And I want to know, does anyone out there watching in the comments section, what is your minimum daily practice? Something that you do every single day to get yourself moving, irrespective of whether you actually plan to do a workout at the gym or something like that. Richie's bringing up the peace, love. Yeah, leave it up there for a bit so they can see. What's your minimum daily practice? And maybe Richie can type that up in the comments of the video so that we know what the question of the day is. Is it just to go for a walk? Is it to do a little
Might
bit of
be
stretching?
going to the kettle, back to the couch.
I
make a
know,
cup of coffee,
yeah,
back
that's
to the
right.
couch.
I know Kalisha used to just do a little 10-minute yoga routine on the lounge room floor every morning, irrespective of whether she got going or not. You know, some people meditate. Some people,
There's this guy who, when I'm playing beach volleyball, I swear every time I'm there, I see him running back and forth along the beach, soft sand running.
Yeah,
and he does
brutal.
it like. And I was talking to a bunch of people, and they're like, "Yeah, I saw him yesterday as well." I was like, "What?" Like, I think that's his minimal viable workout is. Like, he seems to go a few laps. So it's like at least sort of 6Ks of soft sand running. So whatever it is for you,
there you
keen
go.
to hear what it is.
Now, today we want to talk specifically about the how to get started on your flexibility journey. And it's an interesting topic because it's come off the back of the level of people that are asking questions about how to fix a pain point, how to fix something that's hurting. It might be a hip. It might be we spoke about a gentleman experiencing pain in the hip yesterday. We've spoken about a gentleman experiencing pain just in general when he walks. You know, all these sorts of things. And most people reach out and connect with us asking for the best stretch to do, as though there's the notion that stretching that pain is going to fix the pain. And you know, we speak about this a lot on the show because we are kind of flexibility training experts now by default. We've just been pigeonholed as that. But and it's only purely because of the success of our stretching routines, our mobility routines. But the reality is that what is going to solve that problem or pain is not stretching. It's a balance of movement that's going to develop both mobility and strength. You know, and why don't you build a little bit of context on that, and also share the concept of increasing load tolerance.
Well, yeah, when we talked before about systems, you basically got to think about like how that structure or that system is going to work efficiently, and some of the times that's a strength problem, and some of the time that's a range problem. So if range is the problem, then getting more range, which is kind of best done by some type of movement practice that encourages range, so either stretching or loaded mobility or eccentric loading. If the system's lacking that, then if we give it some of that, then it'll work better. Whereas most of the time for most people, what's actually happening is that that kind of capacity and strength is the issue in the system, and that basically the structure that you're loading can't quite handle what you're doing, and so then it spasms up and tries to stop that movement. And then people see that as a range issue because you've got that spasm as a response to overload, and so they think, haha, it's a range issue, I've got to stretch it out and then everything will be better. But really it's a bit of a red herring where you've seen that spasm as the range issue when really it's a capacity issue, and that strength is the right thing to do there. So that's kind of like probably the simplest way I can explain it. But what it kind of comes down to is that we've got to really take that balanced approach in the system of like obviously keeping a daily, ideally a daily practice of movement to keep the range ticking along, and then have a strength practice that is going to be progressively overloading and building up the capacity in that system.
Beautifully said. So for those of you who are following along, to completely clarify, you might be feeling a pain in a muscle from a spasm, and stretching it gives you immediate relief. It might feel like it's backing or turning that pain response down a little bit. And then most people will immediately conclude that, okay, the answer to this problem is to stretch it more regularly. But what often happens is that although it gives you an immediate sense of relief, it's not going to solve the problem. The problem that's causing the spasm is a lack of strength or a lack of load capacity. And the only thing that's going to increase that is to develop strength, to progressively overload that tendon or that tissue. And this is why we like to say that the absolute beginning point of someone's flexibility journey is to adopt a movement practice, which doesn't need to be a huge thing. It can be, we have a 6-minute squat routine, which is literally a mobility routine that prepares people for a squat session that became adopted as a daily minimum viable practice, because although it's by nature, if you look at it, it looks like a flexibility routine. It's actually as much a strength routine for an untrained individual, because you're taking your body through these deep ranges of movement. They're all mobility drills. None of them are stretches. And mobility is a combination of strength and flexibility, because you are loading the body in those end ranges. You're not sitting there passively stretching. And this is similar to, from that 6-minute squat routine, we created our 18-minute mobility routine. And the 18-minute mobility routine is a built-on version of that, which just takes the upper body through a bit of training as well. And we also use some trigger points, some really popular, quite nice feeling trigger point release methods with massage balls and things like that, and that's what blows it out to 18 minutes, you know. So you've kind of got arguably 6 minutes on the lower body, 6 minutes on the upper body, and then 6 minutes of sort of trigger point and myofascial release, like self-massage techniques, essentially, you know. And what it does is it's giving you a really great balance of flexibility and strength. It's giving you some sort of, I guess, controlled tissue palpitation, like touching, pressure, pressure, which helps to, as I said before, it does a lot of things. It raises your pain threshold.
The way it does that is it's such an interesting thing, but it's basically like by controlling the pain, the exposure of your tissues to a stress, but you have control over it, and so it basically like reframes your brain's like response to sensation from there. So it's quite a cool thing where like just by controlling the pain, you basically get back control.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's very it's very successful. It's very popular. This routine is very, very popular. It's among our most popular sort of standalone products that we sell. And you know, in hindsight, when we designed it as a routine to warm our bodies up and prepare our bodies for physical exercise. We never really intended it to be a standalone routine, because we would follow it up with an hour of physical training afterwards, strength training, you know. But for someone who's looking for a minimum daily routine, it works exceptionally well, you know, and it works exceptionally well to bolt onto a bigger workout as well, you know. But what we want to talk about here is that the reason why it works so well is because it's not just stretching. It's loading the body through ranges of movement that you probably got very poor load capacity in, and it's something that you can sort of build on and progress on and get better at over time, which works extremely well to solve all of these little problems in the hips, in the shoulders, all these little pain muscle spasms, because it's going to take the body through those nice ranges of motion. So it's going to do what Phil was talking about before. And that's what we recommend you guys do to start your flexibility journey.
I think the hardest thing with getting started on anything is knowing what to do and having to make decisions about what you do, which is why when I first started training in a gym, I had a membership at a $6 a week place, and I absolutely hated it, and I never went. Because the only times I'd go in there, I just have no idea what I was doing, and sort of look at what other people are doing and try and imitate what they're doing in the machines, and I felt stupid.
Yeah.
Whereas coming in here, when I learned to love the gym, because it was basically like you get told what to do, you do it, you feel satisfied that like you've done the right thing, and then you come back and you do it all again tomorrow. And I think that's what's so good about this program is for when you're starting out in your flexibility journey, it can be hard to know like, oh, should I, be spending my time doing this, doing that, and just by like following along, doing this 18 minutes, that really lowers like that thinking stress. And when you have to think about so much else in your life, just being able to follow along the video you get in the program, or you'll soon start to just learn what to do, and you might get a bit creative and add things on or spend more time on certain things. But just by having something really simple to follow along, and then you can build into a daily practice, like that will get you so much further than having like sitting down and trying to design some elaborate program.
Yeah, 100%. And that, my friends, is the secret to a really good first step. It's what I'm trying to allude to. The secret is not just stretching. It's a combination of loading to build those load tolerances in the tissues, and mobility work, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of tissue palpation. Is that how I'm meant to pronounce the word? I've had that. I just quickly, on a side note, if I just digress a little bit, I've named that incorrectly for almost 20 years.
Yeah, I've caught you up a few times on it. 'Cause palpitations is when your heart's like uncontrollable.
That's right. Yeah.
Palpation is touching.
Palpation is
basically just like touching the body.
Touching the body. Yeah.
Yeah, and with I hear it all the time. Anyway, but yeah, I think it's a really nice like combination of that, and if you can do a bit of learn that sort of soft tissue work with a massage ball, and that's a great way of you're not having to see a massage therapist that costs loads of money.
Yep.
And it's if you can go through that daily practice of and it's going to be really variable for different people at different levels. Like when I was doing aged care rehab, like getting up out of a chair, sit to stand was basically like a 1 RM squat for some of the people I worked with. So depending on the strength you already have, it will be more of a sort of strength routine compared to maybe younger and fitter people who are really strong. So that's
100%. Oh, the best thing is that it works for both. It works for an absolute beginner. It's going to be really a strength routine as much as a mobility and flexibility routine. And for a really advanced person, it's going to become a really great daily maintenance tool or preparation tool for harder training. Now, we have 2 versions of it because the first version has foam rolling in it instead of the massage ball. In the second version, in version 2 of the 18-minute mobility routine, we progress to the massage ball to get a little bit more specific, a little bit like a smaller contact point on the body. And you can sort of go in a little bit deeper with the massage balls, but they're both brilliant routines. We had like so many people adopted and loved the first version 1 of the 18-minute mobility routine. It used to be called the 18-minute flexibility routine. Long story, it's now the mobility routine because it is a mobility routine. It's just that we thought that flexibility would be more popular and people would understand it more. When you when you Google mobility, it comes up with mobility scooters, like for overweight or people with disabilities. So I was like, okay, we're not calling it a mobility routine because I thought maybe people would get that really confused. Anyway, this is where we recommend people start. Don't start your journey just stretching. That's the big take-home message from today. Do something that's going to develop your load capacity so that those muscles don't need to spasm anymore. Stretching them alone is only going to cause temporary relief. It's not going to fix the problem. You need to get that body moving as a system. You need to start cultivating good relationships, healthy relationships with all of those tissues, with all of those joints, with all of those systems, in the body. And we recommend that you do all of it, not just the neuromuscular or the musculoskeletal system. You also want to stimulate the cardiovascular system. You also want to stimulate your energy systems by experimenting with nutrition and time restricted eating and all these great things. You want to get all those systems working symbiotically together, because when any of them start to break down, you experience problems. It might be hormonal problems, it might be musculoskeletal problems, it might be energy system problems. You become very inefficient at metabolizing fat and you start to store fat. There's all these things, and that's what we want you, if you're here with us for a couple of years, that's what we want you to start to understand. The body is just a big series of relationships between different systems that all need to be working symbiotically together.
Yeah. And the results, your current state is a direct result of how your systems have been functioning.
That's exactly right.
That was in a business book that I was reading the other day. I can't remember which one it was. It would have been Clockwork, I think. And he was talking about how basically, like, the results you have, like, they didn't happen by accident. They didn't happen from some kind of magic. It's like a direct result of how, your, in this case, business systems, but in this, in our context, how your body, your health systems 100%. Are functioning. So you've got to, think about where you want to be and then design the systems to get you that result.
Yeah, so 100%. And if you want a done-for-you system, if you want something that is going to deliver great results straight off the bat. Someone gave us a dislike.
It's Diane Norbury. Come on, mate.
Again.
I feel like you've done that before, haven't you?
Yeah, I think so.
It's been a mistake.
If you want a done-for-you system, that's just super easy that you can plug in and play with straight away, which is totally understandable. Not everyone needs to learn how to fish at the start. It's, as Phil said,
it's about getting started.
It's just about getting started. Then check out our 18-minute mobility routines. We've got version 1 and version 2, and I think Rad has organised with Chris and the guys who do our marketing that the version 2 is going to be on sale as a flash sale this weekend, which I strongly advise that anyone who's not in the UMS online coaching group, if you haven't got a minimum daily sort of movement practice established, this is a really good opportunity to get started. It's going to provide you everything that we've told you today. It's going to provide you with a chance to really level up. It's going to complement all of your other movement practice if you are already exercising, if you're an athlete, if you're into sport. It's going to help with those, feelings of stiffness, those spasms occurring in hips, shoulders, back, wherever it is that you're experiencing it. It's going to get your entire body moving, and it's a really, really great routine. So I strongly advise you jump in. Now, I want to give some love to those on the live stream. We did have quite a few people on the live stream earlier, and only a few people said hello. Andy, Lee Clements, Aidan Potts. Good morning, everybody. If you're watching in Australia, and good evening if you're watching in the US, and good night if you're watching like Andy Lawson in Europe, because it's about the middle of the night over there. And guys, we would love to know what your minimum daily exercise consists of. Throw it in the comments. We're wrapping up this stream now, but we still want to come back and have a look and give you guys some feedback. And before we jump over to the online coaching group, quick shout out that 14-day opportunity to trial the UMS online coaching ends, I think, in the next 24 hours. It either ends today or tomorrow. I have to confirm with Rad. It is your last chance to jump on that 14-day free trial. It's a really big deal because we are changing this program going forward. We're simplifying the online coaching program to demystify it a little bit and to make it more clear where we want people to focus their attention. And as a result, there is the price is going up, and we're also removing all of the additional programs and offers like the 18-minute routines and things like that, because we don't want people to be distracted when they get in there. We want to be able to provide the best possible results to everybody. So get on that. Much love to the people on the podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. We love you, love you, love you. And much love to everybody watching the replay on YouTube in a month or so. If you guys want to get in here and interact with us, ask us questions along the way, comment, dive over to the UMS Movement Mastermind private Facebook group and get going. Diane Norbury saying, oops, definitely some kind of mispress. Just noticed the caption speech to text. All good. Have a great weekend, everyone. We got a long weekend here. I'm not sure if we are doing a show on Monday. I don't think we are, so we'll see you all Tuesday, Australia, Sydney time. And everyone in the UMS online coaching, jump over. We are going to be reviewing all of your videos and answering all of your questions in about a minute's time. Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.